Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to join you in welcoming Inspector General Sopko and Ms. Miller to the subcommittee. I look forward to both of your testimony. Today's hearing is notable, not just because of its important topic, reconstruction spending in Afghanistan, but also because of its venue. Although the Senate regularly holds hearings related to our nation's efforts in Afghanistan, until now those hearings have generally been held before the Armed Services Committee and the Foreign Service Relations Committee. So it's rare for our Oversight Committee to focus on spending in Afghanistan, but I do think we should. In the 17 years since September 11th, the American taxpayer has been asked to bankroll hundreds of billions of dollars of spending on combat, relief, and reconstruction in Afghanistan. Our total bill is quickly approaching $900 billion, not counting what we spend here at home treating and caring for our veterans. More than $125 billion has been spent on relief and reconstruction alone. And even accounting for inflation, that's more than we spent on the Marshall Plan to rebuild Western Europe in the aftermath of World War II. Frankly, calling it reconstruction is somewhat of a misnomer. Much of our work in Afghanistan is construction, building infrastructure and capacity where currently none exist. After 17 years and hundreds of billions of dollars, it's more than fair for taxpayers to ask, is it worth it? What is the return on our investment? Are we throwing good money after bad? And why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars on infrastructure thousands of miles away when our own roads and bridges are crumbling right outside our doors? What do I tell the people of Flint, Michigan, who ask me, why are my taxes paying for clean water in Kabul when I don't have clean water in my own home here in Flint? These are important questions and very hard ones. Partly they are policy questions. Put simply, the money we spend in Afghanistan is intended to promote our national security. And thanks to the incredible dedication and sacrifice of our service members, frontline civilians and their families, we have been successful in driving al-Qaeda out of Afghanistan and denying safe haven to transnational terrorists. We have made progress in democracy and development and helping to strengthen Afghan institutions. There are more roads, more electrical lines, literacy is up, and infant mortality is down. And yet, Afghanistan is not secure. We are constantly warned that chaos will follow a precipitous withdrawal of our forces and funding, and every year we add tens of billions of dollars to the bill. Taxpayers are growing weary. My constituents tell me we can't afford to write a blank check. To draw America's longest war to a successful conclusion, we must empower Afghans to achieve and sustain the peace. We must responsibly reduce our spending as we continue to transition military and governing capacity to Afghans. How we achieve that is as much about process as it is policy. The right policies don't ensure success on their own, in fact, far from it. When the money we spend in Afghanistan is wasted, stolen, or ends up in the hands of the very enemies we seek to defeat, it undermines our policy, however well-intended. And I hope that's what we focus on here today. How do we prevent waste, fraud, and abuse from our spending in Afghanistan? How do we ensure that each dollar is put to its highest and best use? How do we track it? How do we measure its effectiveness? Are the right oversight structures in place to provide us with the information that we need to make the tough decisions? And I know from my own visit to Afghanistan and from the visit made by our staffs last month, our security posture severely limits the ability of Americans to work outside of the wire. In many cases, American aid workers and auditors can't even visit the projects that our taxpayers fund. What oversight options, if any, do we have in that kind of security environment? So I'm grateful to be here to hear from Mr. Sopko and Ms. Miller, who have years of experience working on these questions inside and outside of Afghanistan. Between them, they can speak to the challenge of conducting reconstruction programs and the challenge of auditing and overseeing these programs. And I certainly thank you for your service and thank you for being here today. Members of this subcommittee have a wide range of views about our nation's involvement in Afghanistan. But whatever your views, our success depends on spending money effectively, even as we seek to reduce our overall expenditures. Waste fuels corruption, undermines the institutions in Afghanistan that we seek to empower, and breaks faith with the American taxpayer. I hope today's hearing will help address these issues and send a strong message that Congress's role doesn't end when we pass a budget and write a check. We have an obligation to follow the money and ask the tough questions. I thank you and yield back.